Welcome to another episode of Real Estate the Right Way with your host, Michael.Wright, residential realtor on Long Island, New York, delivering the best educational content when it comes to residential real estate. If you appreciate and find value in this content, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and make sure to hit that bell so you're always notified of new videos. And ask me a question in the comments about your specific situation. I'm always here to help. So you're in the process of selling your home. We've discussed the marketing and advertising plan and timeline, and we've began implementing it. On Monday into Tuesday, the listing's live on MLS. It's getting fed to all of the brokerage's websites, the aggregator websites, and some of those news outlets like Newsday, Wall Street Journal, Yahoo, etc. And then Thursday, if there's ad space available on those coupon clipper magazines on the front or the back cover, you'll see it delivered on Thursday. And then Friday, social media blasts all over the place to get those potential buyers excited to come see your property. So now, hopefully, all of this marketing and advertising has resulted in showing appointments and showing requests throughout the weekend. What do we need to do to prepare, and how are we going to provide buyers access? That's what this video is all about. Let's get into it. To prepare for showings, either the day of or the day before, you're going to repeat a lot of the things that you probably did in preparation for the photos and video. But that was likely done a few days ago, a week ago, maybe a couple weeks ago, so that way we had the media available for our advertising plan. When you're dusting throughout the house, as a quick reminder, remember to focus on any light fixtures, also the recessed lights, as well as crawl spaces, utility rooms, places anywhere someone's going to be walking. The last thing you want is someone walking through a cobweb. Give the house a quick vacuum so there's no crumbs or debris on any of the floors in any of the rooms. And you want to tidy up throughout the house. Make sure the pillows on the couch look nice. Make sure all the beds are made. Garbages are emptied. Everything that you would do in preparation for a party. You want to replenish certain items as well. Make sure the paper towel roll is full. Make sure the toilet paper roll is full. Replenish any liquid soaps that you have as well. Anything in view, you want buyers to see a full, complete home, because subconsciously they'll take a look at those items and say, they'll leave the house going, I don't know, this house, it didn't, I can't pick out one thing that it needs, but it just feels like it needs some work. And a lot of times that'll come from an empty toilet paper roll or an empty paper towel roll or a soap dispenser that's more than halfway used. And my bonus tip, get a new doormat for the front door. Allow buyers to have that great sparkling first impression when they're coming into your home. Now it's time for all this preparation, all your energy, all your effort to start to pay off. We're getting buyers in the house. And there's different ways sellers prefer to provide access to a home. I'm going to go through kind of the pros and cons of each and maybe interject into what I prefer to do. So here are ways where sellers can provide access to buyers. And we'll start with the main point of showing the house to potential buyers, and that's to elicit offers. So how do we elicit as many offers as possible? It's to get as many buyers through the door as possible. So let's review each one and see which ones potentially can provide the best experience and the most access for your potential buyers. The first way a seller can provide access is through agent-only appointments. That's where the listing agent has to accompany each showing. And that may be beneficial to a higher-end listing where we want to communicate the architect's or the designer's vision of the home and identify some finer points to the buyer experience that may not be readily apparent. However, if that's not the case, limiting showings to only the agent's availability may restrict or will likely restrict a lot of buyers' access, because if you're working with a qualified full-time professional, they likely have some other things going on. Maybe they're working with buyers, maybe they have a couple other listings. I would think you might want to hire someone who's busy, because that way hopefully they know what they're doing and not just running around like a chicken with its head cut off. But if they're being productive, restricting showings to only the listing agent's schedule will result in less showings, because the likelihood that the listing agent's schedule lines up with the buyer's schedule with the buyer's agent's schedule is somewhat unlikely in most instances. So let's move on. The next way a seller can provide access is opening the door themselves. And this may seem like a fantastic idea, And in some instances, it is a good idea. If the seller feels more comfortable being at the home, they feel more safe and secure while people are roaming about. Maybe there's some valuables in there that they want to make sure keep protected. I get it. It's your home, and we want to make sure that everything in it is protected. But let's go over maybe some drawbacks to that. So all of our marketing and advertising has now resulted in a good number of showings throughout the weekend. And if the seller is the one responsible for providing access, that may get a little cumbersome. Because let's say we start showing on Saturday at 10 o'clock. We may have a 10 o'clock, a 10:30, an 11:15, and then a little bit of a gap in appointments, but then a 12:45 and a 1:30, and then a 2:30. And if the seller is responsible for opening up the door for each showing, and whether or not they're taking the buyer's agent and the buyers around the house themselves, which I don't necessarily recommend, which I'll get to in a second, but if you have 3 or 4 appointments or more throughout the day, but they're scattered timeline-wise based on the buyer's schedule, it can be a bit cumbersome and overwhelming to be the seller opening up the door, going through the whole process, or leaving for a walk, getting the dog out of the house, etc. So the solution to this may be a lockbox, which we'll get to in just a second. But before I get there, sellers do have the urge, myself included, to show buyers around their home. When my wife and I were selling our house, we had a good number of appointments, and to resist the urge of actually showing buyers around our own home ourselves, because being in the profession, I knew I had to insulate myself, we went on vacation. We went down, saw my parents, and just got out of the house and let another member of our team handle everything. Because I knew that while I was walking around the house, if I was showing buyers around my own house, I would start to say things that I would think were valuable pieces of information, but in actuality, the way that they would be perceived would be negative in how the buyers are perceiving that information. So I like to say this when I'm having conversations with sellers. If we're looking at things from the buyer's perspective, there's only a few things that a seller could say to a buyer that would make the buyer say, "Ooh, that's a great point. I want to pay more for the house." Contrary to that, there's a lot of things that a seller could say to make the buyer say, "Ooh, I might want to pay less for this house." And they may be not so intuitive. So a great example is if a seller has an unfinished basement and they just went through the process of putting in a French drain system, maybe they sealed it, watertight, new paint, etc. And they'll walk the buyers down the set of stairs with the buyer's agent and they'll say, "We just put in a great French drain system. We got new sump pumps. We sealed the walls. Fresh paint all around. It's fantastic. It's so crisp. It's so clean. You're going to love it." And the buyer says, "Oh, this house has water problems? Uh-oh." Certainly not the seller's intent, but that's how the buyer is seeing it. And there's other things that a seller could convey on how they utilize rooms or projects that they ultimately didn't get to. And what is meant as a rapport building conversation could actually be consumed by the buyers as an overwhelming list of to-dos before they've even submitted an offer. Another way that things can kind of sometimes get distracted is if a seller's walking around the house going, "Oh, by the way, if you're interested or not interested in the house, I'd like to sell this piece of furniture and that piece of furniture." And while that may all be well and good, we want the buyers to focus on their attention on the house, on the floor plan, on the things that are fixed to the home, not necessarily the furniture. So maybe a little tough love here, but I think it's worth it for you to hear it. Now, if we've agreed, maybe the seller providing access to every appointment isn't the best way to go about it, and lining up the buyers and the buyer's agent's schedule with the listing agent's schedule also isn't the most inclusive way to show a property. We want to provide access to as many buyers as possible. It might make sense to put a lockbox on the door. So this way, only licensed real estate agents will have the access information. They'll show up, they'll take the key out of the lockbox, show the property to their buyers, and we'll also provide highlight sheets to the buyer's agent so they know what to highlight. They'll have all the information at their fingertips. But the buyer gets to experience the property as if they were living there. without the TV on, without the dog barking. They get to walk through saying, oh, this could be my home, which provides the best experience to the buyer, resulting in hopefully the highest offer for you. And that's how we show the majority of our listings, given certainly the seller's wishes. So what's up with this last one, the open house? Is it a good idea? Is it a bad idea? Some people say we use it only to get buyers. Here's where open houses make sense and where they don't make sense. In my opinion, an open house makes sense when a property is first listed. That way, buyers seeing the property will see other buyers there and provide this sense of scarcity. This house is in demand, and if they want it, if our marketing and advertising has been effective and they already have this emotional attachment to the home and they want the house, and they see that other people also want the house, they're going to act quick and hopefully provide us a very strong offer. So in my opinion, an open house is a great marketing tactic for a recently listed property. What we prefer not to do is oversaturate the market with these open houses, where we'll have an open house one weekend, the following weekend, the third weekend. It may seem like, oh, like they really care about this listing, they're doing an open house there every single weekend. But from a buyer's perspective, we want to provide a sense of urgency and scarcity. But if they see we had an open house this Saturday, and now we have an open house next Saturday, we're training the buyers to assume that if the house is still available, we're going to have an open house the following Saturday. So 3 Saturdays in a row. And in that instance, in the middle Saturday, they might say, we'd really like to get over there. We're running a little bit behind. One of our kids had this or that going on. I'm sure they'll have another one next week. We'll just go next week. Which, that might be good for the buyer's schedule, but it's not going to be great for the quality of offers that we're receiving on the property. And in a lot of instances, when a listing is, we'll say, somewhat stale, which is kind of an industry term, some agents will do open houses just to spark things up a little bit. And that is a good opportunity for listing agents to meet potential buyers, because when a buyer is first looking for a property or first has the idea in their head that they're going to go out and buy a house, they go to a lot of open houses. That's like the first step. They're kind of testing the waters. It's the first thing that typically buyers do, when buyers should be getting pre-approved first, but that's neither here nor there. So on a stale listing, it's not my opinion that open houses sell houses, but certainly on a new listing, or maybe one that had a recent price change, open houses can provide a sense of scarcity to potential buyers, encouraging them to act quick and provide their best offer up front. So that's how we prepare for showings and how we execute them. In the next video, hopefully these showings have resulted in potential offers. So we're going to go over how to solicit, how to negotiate, and how to qualify offers from your potential buyers. Thank you so much for watching. This has been another episode of Real Estate the Right Way with your host, Michael.Wright. Remember to like, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, ask me a question in the comments, and as always, tell me what home means to you, and I'll help you get there. Thanks so much.